Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another live Q&A. This is all about express entry and a few other Canadian immigration questions. I am Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, and this is what we do every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Great to have you here. I'm broadcasting from my eCam software directly, which is a new way of doing it. So we'll see. Hopefully this all works out the way I want it to. It's spread out through Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all of the other platforms that you see Holthe Immigration Law and the Canadian Immigration Law present. So we'll wait a few minutes while people jump in. But yeah, there's been no shortage of stuff that is going on with Canadian immigration. There's been a steady stream of changes and updates and a whole bunch of different things that we've been talking about over the last couple of days. An FSW only draw, we saw that. We've seen that there's been modifications to students and their ability to work full-time, which has caused a lot of problems as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, we'll see. Are they going to do another draw today? What do you think? That's the question. All right, looks like people are chiming in. Albina says, just became a member. I will give you some applause. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. I'm going to give you some applause. So it's great, absolutely great to have people joining in. And there's a couple different things I'm going to pull up here. If you look in the description of the video here, you'll see that there are some links to our new community group. And I wanted to let everybody know that we are going to be setting up a poll in that group to determine when you guys want to do the live Q&A in that group. So we're going to do a live Q&A that's just in the Canadian Immigration Institute community group. So if you haven't had a chance to connect over there, please go in there and just, request to join. So I'm going to slide my screen over here and show you while we're waiting for people to tune in. Okay, yeah, it's important to have analytics there. Okay, so if you look here, Canadian Immigration Institute Community, if you click on that link, I'll just open that up in a new tab, you can come in and you can join this community group. And I'm trying to create something kind of akin to a Facebook group, but that is on my property, not loaned or rented property, because, oh my goodness, even though there's 124,000 people in the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, when I post, people don't even see it in there because Facebook apparently doesn't feel like what I'm posting is worth the members in my own group seeing. So we're creating this community group. There's going to be chat discussions. We've got, like I said, I'm just waiting to after you join the community, we're going to schedule when our exclusive weekly live Q&As will be within that group. And what's the advantage? Well, there's a really good chance that people that are tuning in there that are part of that group in the early days are going to guarantee that their questions are going to get answered. Once people start to pile in, and it's free, it's completely free to join this community group, you guys, then as people start to pile in, then it will start to get more like this YouTube. And so I just want to encourage you guys, if you haven't had a chance, to slide over and do that. And you can just find the link in the description. So if you look your book, an immigration consultation, it's right below that Canadian Immigration Institute community. So you can click on that. And as always, remember, I've got all my DIY courses and everything that are in there. Boy, I am a busy person. It's a busy day today. So that's where you can find the link, and it'll take you right here. And once you're in the community group, you can see there's chat and discussions on various topics. You can connect with other immigrants going through the process, ask questions and seek advice from your peers, stay in the loop with regular updates. And we will be releasing a lot of our very first things that when we've got something new to talk about, it's going to get launched and released in this group. Then we'll go out to social and all the other places. So yes, so this community group is going to be a lot of fun. I recommend that you slide over and join. So maybe that is the one that Albina has joined. You can become a member of the Facebook group as well, of the actual channel. So maybe that's the one, not sure. But anyways, just wanted to share that with you guys and let you know that that's what's happening. Okay, let's see who we got here as well. Sam, it's good to see you. Thanks for connecting in. Mihak says, how to add a spouse after ITA? Does this delay the PR? So Mihak, the biggest issue with adding a spouse after ITA is whether or not that spouse was a spouse before you submitted your EAPR or whether you got married after. So maybe you can just confirm that for me, Mihak, because that is what really that dictates the answer that I'm going to be giving you. Okay. Ashutosh, hello. Good to see you. We've got Yuchi. Good to see you as well. And then we've got some other questions coming in. Satnam, hello. And make sure that you post in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'm hoping that I'm going to get some people from LinkedIn and Facebook. Right now, it looks like YouTube is driving the ship. I'm just looking here to see. So we'll see if others are connected in as well. But this is all about answering your questions about Canadian immigration, giving you a little bit of an update on the world and what's happening. And yeah, so let me know. Do you think there's going to be a draw today? What do you think? That's the question that I'm asking. And just post in the comments whether or not you think that is going to be the case. All right. So if we look here, I'm just going to go back here and I'm going to show you guys something here. Okay, so if we flip around here, we can see that the last draw was a federal skilled worker only draw that occurred on February the 2nd, so 1 week ago. Before that, if we scroll down here and see the previous rounds, you will see that this is the first federal skilled worker only draw ever, but we had a provincial nominee program the day before. So the question is, are they going to, and then there was about a 2-week gap between about a 2-week gap from when they did the last no program specified draw. So the question is, will the minister do a CEC only draw? And in my videos that I've put out there, I've told him that, yes, Minister Fraser, it would be wise for you, my friend, to do a CEC draw to accommodate for all these individuals that have really been left out of the lurch with an FSW only. Now, like one of our viewers here says, when category will be announced. So I think what he's referring to is the specific targeted draws. When will Minister Fraser, our fine minister right here, when will he decide to do one of those draws? Well, he said the spring. So we're in a waiting pattern here. We'll see. But what does this mean for everybody? Like realistically, what does it mean with those targeted draws? Well, it means that if you are eligible to enter a profile into the express entry pool, regardless of your CRS, it really makes sense that you do it. And this is something that I talk a lot about in my express entry course. And the link is below if you want to learn more about it. But in that course, we specifically address ways in which you can maximize your chances of getting an invitation. But never before has the minister utilized his powers to do a specific targeted draw. And what are the ways he can do it? Well, it can be literally anything. And I want you to stay tuned. We just about got our blog post ready that we're going to be releasing on my takeaways on what I think Express Entry 2.0 is going to look like. And IRCC has released a lot of information, you guys, to give us direction and some guidance on what they're thinking about and what Minister Fraser here, the Minister of Immigration in Canada, what he is possibly considering when he ultimately starts doing those rounds of invitations. And let's face it, he could very well be setting things up. He could. This FSW draw could have been a little bone that he threw to everybody outside of Canada saying, hey, we haven't forgot about you, but now I'm going to focus on these targeted draws. So we'll see how that plays out. Okay. We got a little super chat here. Okay. So, hey, Mark, just wondering if I would need an ECA verification for my bachelor's degree US. I currently hold a master's degree from Canada. No, if you've got a master's degree, then I typically don't bother with a bachelor's degree in those circumstances. The master's gives you the high enough points, and so I wouldn't bother with getting an ECA, but I do include it in the education history. I do include it, and I just say I don't have an ECA for it, and your points will still be the same at the master's level in Canada. Make sure you include your transcript and your degree, and you are well on your way. All right. Looks like we've got a little overlap there on the screen. My apologies. All right. So there's a little super chat we answered. Okay. Let's jump back here and get into some more questions. Let's see who else is here. How far down did I go? Okay, Satnam says, is there any draws, any chance for 486? Well, if you look at the rounds of invitations and we examine the totals, so the federal skilled worker alone was at 489, But if we go back here and we can see the no program specified draws are at 490. So there's still going to be a bunch of people that are CEC that piled in after the 490 was issued. So we know that there were 3,300 at this upper level that were purged out. If there was a CEC only draw, and there was, 35, maybe 4,000 people, then I think Satnam, if you're in Canada and you've got 486, you'd have a pretty significant chance of getting drawn. If, however, you were a federal skilled worker, and if we look at the number, and this is probably something that's worth examining here, I always like to see who was in the pool at the time in which the round of invitation occurred. So when this one occurred, even though it was back to back, this one was February the 1st. So here's something you have to realize. These numbers are pre the PNP round of invitation. So if you look at previous rounds here, you can see that this one here, the federal skilled worker and the provincial nominee, both occur on February 1st and 2nd. So these 893 that came off are not reflected in the actual pool distribution because they still relied on February 1st and these numbers didn't change. So we know that these figures encompass both the two previous draws, both this draw 240 as well as the draw that was PNP for 239. So if we look at the number of people here, what I'm really interested in, we know that by and large, this cohort of people was flushed out. So what we don't know is that, and you can do the math, really you can do the math. We don't know how far or where these people are structured and where they're spread out within this range of 481 to 490. So is it possible for it to get down to 486? Well, it depends on how many invitations that they issue. And, 480, 490 was the last one. And if you go back historically as well, if you look back historically as well, when they've done big draws, how far has the drop been? So when they've done big, large numbers, this went from 496, and then essentially 2 weeks later, it dropped down 2. And then 2 weeks later, it dropped down 3. And you can see, and then from here, November 23rd to January the 18th, which was a fairly large group, or I should say to January 11th, you can see here, they had just about 3 weeks here. It took a big jump back up to 507. And then once again, with another large group, it pulled it down to 490. So could it go down to 486 if they were to do a no program specified draw today? It's possible, but it entirely depends upon the number of invitations that are sent out. All right. That's a good question. I like that question. Good job. Okay, let's see who else is here. Okay, here's a great question. So Yuchi says, I'm applying for a young professional under the International Experience Canada. I wonder if I can add a valid job offer in the express entry for extra 50 points once I receive the young professional permit. No, you can't. So employer specific, if that is the route that you're going and you get an employer specific work permit, but it's not LMI based, then you actually have to, excuse me, I've got a little bit of a scratchy throat. You actually have to work for 1 year before you're able to claim those job offer points. And so let's take a peek here. That's what we do, right? We share insight. So let me flip around here to the government website. And if we go down, you can see, excuse me, this basic stuff is, yes, the employer needs to be able to do that. And they need to offer you employment for at least 1 year after you become a permanent resident. But it also must be, and you can see options, there's 3. Both of these first 2 ones are LMIAs. And then the last one fits your program if you have an employer specific work permit under the young professionals. It says if you have a valid work permit, that's tier 1, 0, 1, 2, or 3, that is exempt from an LMIA, and you are currently working for an employer specified on your work permit, so it's not open, employer specific, then you have to have 1 year full-time work experience with that employer. Okay, so that's really the difference. So no, once you get it, you can't get the 50 points immediately. If you have an LMIA-based work permit, or you've got an LMIA that's been approved, excuse me, then you can, but not under the an employer-specific work permit under the International Mobility Program. Okay, let's see here. Boy, now I've got hiccups because of my scratchy throat. Actually, I need to get a drink is what I need. Okay, Riding Raven says, do you think CRS will fall below 470? The only way I think it's going to happen is if the minister does a targeted draw. What do you guys do for hiccups? I've been clearing my throat and I've just had such a little bit of congestion in my chest here as I've been trying to clear it. I've virtually caused myself to hiccup here. Let me see if I can let it disappear. Mind over matter, right? What do people say? Drink water upside down. I got to slow down here and just take a breath, and hopefully the hiccups won't keep coming up throughout this live. Okay, here we go. Okay, I think I'm good. I think I staved off the hiccup mania. Unless, let's see, someone else got some. Oh, here we go. So Abdul's given me some ideas. Drink water 10 times back to back. I don't even have any water here. Okay, we'll keep my fingers crossed that we'll survive here, Abdul. Thanks for the tip. Okay, so he says it worked for me. Okay, that's great advice. Thank you. Oh, these are all over the place, aren't they? Okay, here we go. Lucas says, hold your breath for as long as you can and they'll go away. And Melvin says, drink water. Okay, hang tight, you guys. Okay, I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna get a drink of water. Just 1 second. It's a perfect storm, you guys. It's a perfect storm. My tankless hot water heater here in the house is on the fritz. So we have someone who's come over to take a look at it and try to figure it out. And so the water's turned off. But fortunately, I've got a bottle of water my dear wife is going to get for me. So thanks for the tips, you guys. This is how we roll here. This is like, it's all about having fun, right? Having fun. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Hiccups means someone is talking about you. Hopefully it's Minister Fraser. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think this guy is actually talking about me? Hey. What do you got to say, Minister Fraser? Do you like the comments I'm making? I try not to be too disparaging. Like, the reality is Minister Fraser's got a brutal job. Of all of the various portfolios that a person can have in cabinet, you know, being a minister over immigration is one of the most difficult. And in fairness to, you know, Minister Fraser, he is, thank you, Deanna. He is literally got the most difficult job in the whole country. As far as I'm concerned, more difficult than the Prime Minister. And so I understand he's doing what he can with what he's got. And he has to work within the systems. He has to work within the department, within the, you know, the existing parameters. And he's basically taken on something that he didn't create. Now he's trying to make the best of it. So I can't say too many bad things at all about Minister Fraser. He is doing what he can in the circumstances. I think we all just hope that he's going to sort this whole issue out for all of you that are in Canada looking to transition to permanent residence. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we've got here. Oh, do you know what? I'm going to have a drink. Okay. I think I've staved off the hiccups. Thanks for the tips, you guys. All right, let's see what we have here. I'm just going to jump back and we're going to get to a few more questions. And remember, if for whatever reason you don't get your question answered, Alicia and I are going to be live tomorrow at noon. So remember, that's there. And actually, this is another really, really important little segue. So if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute in our page, and if I flip back here, yes, in the description, you can log in if you're joining late and join my Canadian Immigration Community Group. So this is something that we're creating to basically create a community where people can share. And I intend to go live in there. And there's going to probably, if you don't get your question answered today, you're going to have a greater chance to get it answered in there if you come and you join the community group. Remember, it's completely free. But at the top here, you will see on my Canadian Immigration Institute page, you'll see that at the top, there's a podcast. And so I want to highlight to this, all of you guys that are commuting and driving around, that now there's going to be a podcast that is going to cover a ton of different things. Well, I shouldn't say it's not new. I just have not talked a lot about it. But Alicia and I just released episode 100 of the Canadian Immigration Podcast. And this podcast is the longest running podcast related to Canadian immigration. And at least from the standpoint of how I've structured it. I think some of the other places might have started a podcast and released just information generally. But the nature of this podcast, it's been around for a long time. So we are starting, Alicia and I, Business Immigration Series, and how to hire a foreign worker. Make sure that you get over there and you watch this, because we're going to talk about all of this, whether you're an employer, whether you're an individual. It'll be really helpful to understand how this all works. And so definitely check that out. And then you'll see here, the one before that was with CELPIP. And so CELPIP is the alternative to the IELTS. And these are, this is basically CELPIP test taking tips from an English teacher. Well, she's actually the main representative from CELPIP who joined me to share insight on this whole process. So make sure you check out those podcasts. And of course, before there's a ton of other ones, the tips from Minister Fraser and, preparing a reconsideration request. Like, there's a ton of content on here that I don't want you guys to miss out on, especially for those of you who traditionally like to listen and multitask. Well, there you go. So don't miss out on that. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, Lima says, what comes after medical is approved in PR CEC application? What's the difference between R10 check and eligibility check? Okay, so this is a great question. So R10 is complete. So have you included everything in your application to basically to form a complete application? When it comes to eligibility, they're assessing whether or not you actually qualify for the program. So technically, you could provide everything that you need to form a complete application. That's R10. And then after, they could still assess it and say, oh, we've looked at your work history and we don't think you're eligible for the program and we're going to refuse your application. So that's the difference between those two. But that's a really good question, Lima. Lots of people confuse that. Okay. Okay, let's see. Simran, you've got a question I don't have an answer for. I don't know. It says, where can I calculate my BCP&P score before submitting my actual profile? Website that is reliable. People hire us and we do that for them. So I recommend, Simran, that you reach over and slide over to our website. And as I've always indicated to you guys, clicking on Speak to a Lawyer can then lead to ultimately retaining us as your legal advisors to help you go through your application and even submit it. So you can check out our team, our approach, how we work with our clients, which personally I think is awesome. You can join our newsletter if you haven't done that, which is another great avenue to get the most up-to-date information. So direct lawyer to client collaboration, that is the difference. That's what differentiates us from many, many other representatives out there. Lawyers, consultants, otherwise. Often you're dealing with middle people if you're dealing with large entities. And with our firm, you deal directly with us. All right. Okay, zooming through. And if I've already answered a question that is similar to one that you've asked, I will probably skip past it. Okay, Mariana, hello, joining from Toronto. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Let's see what else we've got going here. Okay, Satnam says he doesn't think there's going to be any draw, but it will be on the 15th. I'm kind of inclined to agree with you there. Okay, and then we've got lots of other questions about scores. We've talked about that. Oh, this is a great news. We're going to applause this one. Katamba. This is awesome. So Katamba from Uganda. Thank you, Mark. Regards to Cedric. You just got my study permit refusal decision overturned. IRCC went ahead to request my medicals. Yes, that is awesome. And what Katamba is talking about, and what do we do as immigration lawyers? Well, we spend a lot of time specifically working with our clients to fix things that are, well, that get refused. And so if you look in here, legal help, you'll see that judicial reviews, reconsideration requests, this is a significant part of our practice and what we do. I didn't always do this. And so by bringing Cedric on, and if we go over here to our team, by bringing Cedric in here, here's the man, the myth, the legend right here. If we look at Cedric and his background, Cedric has had a lot of experience working in a bunch of different capacities. And you can see he's got bios in French. He's got bios in English. You can see that he's done, like I said, he's done a bunch of different things in the past. He focuses on judicial reviews. And you can see here, he was a law clerk at the Federal Court of Canada, member of the IRB, and an expert at the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So before joining us, he was working with government on the side of the government. And now we're happy to have him doing judicial reviews, mandamus, reconsideration requests, all those kinds of things that we do within the office. But this is a huge, huge thing. And as you can see right here from our good friend Katamba, I'm so excited. That is so awesome. It's been so busy today. I haven't even had a chance to talk to Cedric about this. I saw some posts that he posted within our internal Teams group, but yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'll give you an applause there, Katamba. Awesome. And any of you guys, remember, if you want any assistance, all you have to do is slide over to our firm website, and right up here, it's Speak to a Lawyer. And this is where everything starts. And you can read the reviews from past clients if you want. And as you scroll down here, you can see there's Alicia and Chanel and Cedric, and you can choose whoever you want to work with. Myself tucked here at the bottom. And we're happy to help you in any way. And I have a very busy day today. Oh my goodness, do I have a busy day. I have right after this live. So I did an hour-long consult before I went live. That's why I was a little bit late. A really challenging situation that we're going to be judicially reviewing an express entry application that got rejected. And then I have 2 more consults at 11. And then I have lunch with a friend. And then I have, oh my goodness, someone else filled in there. Oh my goodness. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm talking with a lawyer at another firm right after that. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, basically 8 consults today, but I'm still carving out time to work with all of you. So there we go. So that's what's going on in the life of Mark. Oh, that reminds me, I want to let you guys know about something that I'm going to be starting. I'm so excited about this. So what we're looking at doing right now is doing, well, what would I call it? Kind of like a roundtable chat, like a fireside chat with the lawyers in the firm. So every 2 weeks, we're going to be releasing a new podcast episode that's basically Holthe Immigration Law Roundtable, essentially, where we're going to talk about our practice. We're going to talk about what we're doing. We're going to share insight on what happens inside our law firm. We're going to talk about some of the latest policy changes with immigration, and we're going to talk about us as people too, what's going on in our lives. And then the fun part is we're going to do, I'm so excited, a Canadian immigration trivia every episode. That's going to be based on Canadian history, Canadian geography, Canadian kind of pop culture, and of course, Canadian immigration. So those are the 4 pillars, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And basically, we're going to have it. I think Igor is going to host it, and all the members of Holthe Immigration Law, we're all going to join in, and it's just going to be so much fun. And there's going to be opportunities for you guys to post in listener recommended questions for trivia. And if your question is selected, you may very well get an opportunity to, receive a little gift from us. So, and just to let everybody know, if we slide back here to our site, it's all going to be pushed out through the Canadian Immigration Podcast. So if you haven't subscribed, remember, iTunes, you can find it, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts, the Canadian Immigration Podcast. If you haven't subscribed to it, make sure that you do. And this is where we're going to start threading in our Holthe Immigration Law roundtables within the episodes that we're going to be releasing. So it may be that we start releasing more than one a week, but that's kind of where we're at. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure that you do that, because that is in full swing now. Alicia and I have recorded the first 3 episodes of the business immigration series. So we'll see how that plays out. Oh, so much fun stuff going on, you guys. And Katamba, just once again, I am so happy for you, my friend. This is just so phenomenal. And it's just, I love it when things go well. Yes, that is what we do. Harpreet, good to see you. And let's see here. Okay, Mariana asks a good question. So she says here, these keep jumping up on me here. She says, how often will immigration officers call your employer to verify your work experience? Supervisor whose contact is in my letter is out of the country till February 11th. EAPR submitted December 28th, 2022. Okay, so it is very, very rare that they would ever call an employer. The only time they would is if they felt there was something, not quite right with your work history. In other words, maybe something like fraud. So they want to verify because the information that you've provided, gives them some indication that maybe things aren't quite as you say they were. And so if they call and there's no answer, then they can use that against you. But remember, Mariana, if your supervisor has a voicemail message, then often they will leave a voicemail. And I recommend that supervisor, if they're going to be away and out of the country, then hopefully there's someone else there that can get their messages. And usually that's the case with most companies. When things like that are happening, their voicemail is forwarded to somebody else to answer. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'd have to say, Mariana, on that. But it's very rare that they call. It's only if they have some reason to doubt the legitimacy of the work history. Okay. Lima says, is it wise to apply for a bridge and open work permit while having a post-grad extension under process? Public policy, which is taking ages. Thank you. It depends. It really depends. A bridging open work permit is obviously tied to your PR application. You can look at the processing times, right? So if you submit a bridging open work permit, there's no guarantee that it is going to come back any faster than the public policy post-grad, that 18-month, new 18-month work permits that they're issuing. There's no guarantee that it's going to come any faster. And if we look at the processing times, I'll show you guys so that you all know. If you go here and you look at the processing times, so IRCC processing times, you just search for it and you pull it up. If we look at for work permits inside Canada, so temporary residence, and then work permit from inside right here, and get processing times, you can see how awful. It's actually seems like it just keeps going up. 164 days now. So if you were to start the process over and file a bridging open work permit, well, ultimately you're probably going to get a decision on that other post-grad before then. Okay, let's see here. Who's next? This is brilliant. Okay, so Cher asked this question. Man, it keeps popping up there. I'm going to give one of these ones, which is absolutely the greatest question that we've had today. So that's the question of the day. With the targeted draws, don't you think the minister might get influenced through lobbying groups, or perhaps the question would not about CRS, but more of occupation, like during COVID essential? That's the whole nature of it. So absolutely, the minister will be influenced. And for Minister Fraser to not be influenced by, by politics, lobbying, the establishment of any targeted draw is political in nature. Now he has to respond whenever, and this is something that's built into the actual decision-making process. He has to report on cabinet on the details of why the particular targeted draws occurred in the way that they did. There's a report that has to be made back to cabinet at the end of each year to report back on what happened. And so there's an element of transparency that is baked into it. So minister can't just get a call from a friend and say, hey, can you do one for this knock code? Because and I'll contribute $20,000 to the Liberal Party of Canada. Well, that's not going to happen. That's not possible, that level of corruption. Maybe in other countries, but not in Canada where the rule of law exists. But large organizations like maybe construction companies or engineering associations can get together and lobby the government and say, look, this is why we feel these occupations should be on your list and you should target them. There are labor shortages, that we can't produce enough people to fill these roles in Canada. And so that kind of stuff absolutely plays a role in it. But to say that it's not going to have that politics to some extent is not going to, and lobbying groups don't have an influence, that would not be true, because they will and they do. Ultimately, when it comes to the CRS score, yeah, it's going to be not as important as with core human capital if there is an occupation-specific draw. And that's a reality, Cher. That's just the nature of it, because they're starting to see that not all candidates who have high human capital are going to fit well into the areas where there are labor shortages in Canada. So they're thinking about trying to do this in a way that will meet labor issues. But the problem I have with that is that often the labor data is always behind the realities. So the data that they rely upon sometimes can be over 2 years old. So it's not actually meeting current needs. It's looking at something that happened 2 years ago and reacting to that. So it'll be interesting to see what resources that they rely upon. Stats Canada keeps statistics. I myself have to contribute to those statistical, that statistical information within my firm, but they don't ask questions about occupations. So I'm curious how it's all going to play out. Really curious. That's a great question. Noor, we've got someone over in Facebook. Love Canada. There's an applause. That's awesome. Thank you, Noor. So yes, Facebook is alive, and that's the Canadian Immigration Institute Facebook page. Okay. Okay, Demario says, how does IRCC calculate total work experience? If it's by month, the day that you start doesn't matter, right? Well, understand you have to be really careful, because even though they round up, you still, at the time in which you file your EAPR application, I will never submit it until I've actually met that full year. Often we see it happening from the 1 year to 2 year period. If people submit their application early, their profile, when they don't yet have that full year, yes, it can round up almost like 2 days less, 2 months short. So it can be like 10 months and realistically, what would it be? Like really, I guess 10 months and 2 days almost would be enough work at a minimum for it to round up to make it a full year, depending upon what your start day was. For example, if you started October 31st, it would give you credit for the whole month of October, even though you didn't work it, because there was 1 day. And if you work from October to November, so let's say October 2021 to November 2022, it would give you 1 full year. But the reality is, if you started October 31st and then you ended November the 1st, well, that would be, well, maybe that's not a good example, because that would be a full year. Let's go backwards and say you ended September the 30th. Yes. So if you started October the 1st and you started October 31st and ended September the 1st, that's better. That would give you a full year, even though you were almost 2 months short. Does that make sense? So rounding up is an issue. So how I deal with it is I always wait to file the EAPR until I've actually accumulated that work experience. If it's past work experience and you didn't work a full year, but when you enter it in, because it's by month, it's giving you credit for that year, don't count on that. IRCC can go back and say you don't have the full year and can reject your application. But if you received an ITA and it's for an employment that you are currently working at, then just wait to file your EAPR until you've actually received, you've met that full year mark, and make sure that your reference letter that you're including is dated after you've met that full year mark. Okay. And these are things that I cover in detail in my Express Entry course. All right. And that question comes up a lot in those master classes. Oh, it does, Mario. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, this is great. Shagan says, hey, Mark, just a reminder that the categories for Express Entry are due to be announced this week. The document said no later than the 5th sitting day of Parliament in February. Okay, well, we will see, Shagan. I'd love if you can post a link. I'd love to see, well, maybe you can't post links. I can't remember if you can or not, but if you received the document said no later than the 5th, I would love to see that. And what you can do is send me a copy. I've got, you know, a ton of different things that are going on here in my office. And so lots of times correspondence will come through and into my office, and it will just skim right through my inbox and I won't see it. So I'm very, very curious to see what you're referring to, Shagan. I'd love to get a copy of that. Now I'm just going to pull this up here. I got to find my, oh, there it is. Okay. Let's see if I have, oh, there it is right here. If you can send an email to info@holthelaw.com and just attach a copy of that, Shagan, I would love, I'd love to, yeah, to get a copy of that. So send an email if you can. All right, perfect. So we will see how this plays out. We will see, you guys. I love the fact that people come in and they share their insights. So good. Oh, okay. Mihak says, got married after receiving ITA. How can this supposed to be added? And also whether it delays the PR. Yes, it will delay the permanent residence, and you need to notify IRCC via web form that you have a spouse. I typically will include a copy of the marriage certificate and passport of the spouse, and then they will then respond with instructions and open up a section within your IRCC secure account for you to upload all the documents for your spouse. This is something that I deal with all the time in my firm. I help clients navigate their way through it. You have to realize that this is something you need to take very seriously because, like it or not, there's a ton of fraud all over the world. And one of the main areas of fraud is permanent residence. So if you have someone who marries someone, that person can then be included in a permanent resident application, and it's basically a ticket to Canada. And as long as you can establish that the relationship is genuine and it wasn't entered into primarily for immigration purposes, then you're going to be in a position where you have, you know, that person can just come with you. So when that happens, there's a huge incentive for someone to come up to you and say, hey, I'll pay you $30,000 Canadian if you marry me and then include me with your permanent resident application. Sounds far-fetched, right? No, it's all over the place. And there are some countries where fraud is just so high, you know, and often people are so desperate to be able to come. You take countries like, well, you can name any country. There's fraud in all of them. There's lots happening in India. There's lots happening in Nigeria, you know, but those are just recent clients that I've had just recently who were taken advantage of. And some have booked consults with me where they willfully chose to submit fraudulent documents, and now they're here and trying to figure out what to do with permanent residence. And often there's not a lot that I can do to help them. So yes, so it is possible. Make sure when they send the spousal kit back to you after you send a web form to them notifying about your marriage, you must take it seriously, especially the genuineness information, proving that your relationship is genuine. And because it can cause your entire application to be rejected. And it's not something that I want to scare people, because if you do it correctly, it's great. There's not a problem at all, other than a slight delay in the processing of your application. But if you do everything right, and the reality is I already know all the things that they're going to be asking. And so if you choose to slide over, you can very easily, Mahak, if you want to book a consult, I can walk you through the process and explain what IRCC is looking for. I'm happy to share that with you in advance so that you can start working on the documents now. And also, if you choose to retain me, I help clients update their files all the time when the letter comes back from IRCC. So those things can easily be done. All you have to do is just slide over to our firm website, Holthe Immigration Law, and there's a link in the description below, and you can just book a consult and we can go through that, and I can help you to sort all of that out. All right. Great question, Mahak. Thank you. Okay, let's see who else we have here. Amit, it's good to see you as well. We're into our last 10 minutes. I don't know if we have any supers. I think there's just the one. Okay. Oh, no, we've got another one. Let's see. No, I don't think I have one. Yes, we do. Okay. There's another one I don't want to miss from Ali. Okay. Ali says, we'll just pull this back down again. Okay. What if someone received CERB, okay, and CRB and later found ineligible and needs to pay back? How does that impact the PR application if it is in process under express entry? Could a visa officer refuse PR? That is a question that I've never had, Ali, never. And ultimately, any debt that is owed to the government can be an issue for people. The CERB benefits are not social assistance. They're not considered to be social assistance. And so, excuse me, so if you were found ineligible to receive that and you have to pay the government back, that's something that I would need to look into to see if IRCC has dealt with this in the past, because this is new territory. And typically, if I owe taxes, for example, let's say I have a tax liability that I owe to IRCC because I didn't pay enough taxes. Well, that's not a criminal offense, or, it's not something that would make a person ineligible. If they were a foreign worker and they owed tax in Canada, they could still apply for permanent residence. So, but I'm not going to say until I understand more details. So I recommend that you book a consult, Ali, because this is a new territory, and I can see why you reached out. You probably have tried to ask a lot of people about that. But one thing I can tell you is that CERB benefits are not considered to be social assistance or anything for the purposes of like sponsorship or other areas of IRCC applications. And so I don't see how, at this stage, I'm just not sure. I don't want to say one way or another whether it's something that would affect. Ultimately, you're going to if you have a permanent resident application in the queue, well, one, you're just going to go ahead and you're going to file it. And two, before a decision is made, I would strongly encourage you to pay it back. Just pay it back. That's what I would do. Okay. All right. Let's keep zipping through here. We'll get to a few more questions as we wrap this up. And yeah, this has been a great live today, you guys. This has been a long-standing thing. We've been at this for quite a while, haven't we? Okay, let's see here. Who is next? Okay, so Eric says, I have a misrepresentation problem to US, but I really want to study permit to Canada to do a one-year program to help me get a promotion. Please, can you help me stand a chance to get ITA? This is one where I will definitely ring my little triangle and tell you to slide over here and book a consult with one of us so that we can go through this together with you. Okay, so go here to our website, click on Speak to a Lawyer right here, and then you can have the ability to really explain the situation so that we can answer it properly. All right. Okay, let's see what is next. The next question we're going to get to. Let me just flip us back here. Okay, and we'll just there. I've got a lot of things going on in the background. Okay, Ida says, Mark, people who are eligible for both FSW and CEC, if they received an ITA for FSW last week, do they have a chance for next CEC draw as well? No, once you've received an ITA, your profile is locked. So, yeah, unless you withdraw or decline that ITA and go back in the pool, you're going to go through FSW, and that includes settlement funds, right? That's probably the question you're actually looking at. Okay, this is a person who's on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Hooray! And that's why it says Facebook user. Okay, he says, can I put my Express Entry file without my wife? She's staying with me in Canada. My CRS with her is 445 and without 457. This is something I strongly discourage people from doing because I've seen IRCC allege misrepresentation in these situations. Unless you can clearly show that she will be leaving immediately to Canada to go back and that there's a reason she has to go back home, IRCC treats that as a misrepresentation. They say she's not accompanying you when she's already here. And so that's a huge red flag. And I would, strongly encourage you not to do that. Let's see. Okay. Natalia asks a question that is, I get this one a lot. We cover this a ton in the course. Hello, Mark, how to fill the address history section out after ITA if the applicant was traveling abroad to different countries during 1 year and a half, many different cities and locations. Natalie, the secret is the letter of explanation. The LOE, and I've got templates, I've got videos that are specifically targeted to that in my course. We walk through this with our clients when they retain us. Let's face it, when people have challenging situations, and they don't know where to go, that's usually when they retain our firm. I wish they would hire us to do the process from start to finish, even when they feel like the process is simple and straightforward, because there's very rarely a time where I don't run into a situation where individuals are, they think it's simple, and then IRCC comes back and rejects their application. But yeah, the letter of explanation is how I deal with that. All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up today. That was a great question to end on, Natalie. And thanks so much for finishing off with a bang. And those of you who are attending, remember tomorrow at noon, Alicia and I will be back. And don't forget, you guys, about the community group. So I'm going to see if I can find it here. Let's see if I can go back just a little bit. Yes. So if you click in the description below, you'll see that you can access this page here where you can join our community group. And you can see there's a ton of different things that we're going to have going on in there. And so go check it out. It's completely free, and it's a safe place where you guys can come get questions answered. Just, connect with people that are in the journey just like you. All right. Take care, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow with Alicia. See you later.